All right, welcome folks to Last Week I Learned. First of all, kind of all in on these Zoom clips. This is working really well. A lot of fun. Second of all, we're going to talk about three products today: Resend, Kombai, and Rainbow AI. And I've got kind of a special surprise, which is kind of exciting to show you kind of as I look through things. So first, though, is Resend. You'll kind of see the surprise mixed in. This is email for developers. I think this is super smart because uh, I have tried to use some email platforms before. I tried to use SendGrid. SendGrid's actually the best I know about. This is the one where it's like, okay, this like mostly works. But the thing that's smart about building for developers is like developers are the ones that's gonna like they crank through this stuff. Like developers are the ones who have to figure out how to use some email API. Like nobody cares how an email gets to an inbox. It just needs to get there. And so the fastest, easiest way to do it is going to win out. And I think Resend is a pretty freaking smooth experience. I don't know, they check all my developer boxes where they've got all the coolest new technology. Like this is kind of fun. So um, I'm pretty hype about this one. I don't really have a use case for it yet. I might end up using it to send my email newsletter and like build my own version of MailChimp because I don't really like MailChimp. But yeah, that and then let's see if we can find pricing. Like where is pricing on here? This is one of the little fun things, um, is that Arc just added a new mode called Max, and it's a really smart like finding tool. So I could ask you questions like, what does this company do? And it would answer it for me. So that's pretty cool. It's like a really smart search control F. I think this is probably the most useful application of ChatGPT I've seen. So kind of fun, super nerdy today. We've got this email platform and then we've got Arc doing cool stuff. So next up is called Kombai. It's kind of interesting. You can like feed it in a web page and then it'll spit out the code for that web page. So the reason I'm thinking about doing this is I have a lot of inspo pages kind of for my blog, and this is what my blog looks like right now. We've got a long way to go, and I want some ideas on how to make it look better, but I don't always have the like design chops to make it happen. So it'd be cool. Like I really like this because I can actually just like look in the style CSS and see, okay, like what colors are they using, all this. And it's just using ChatGPT under the hood, but I think it's really nice. I might use it just to like feed in random sites. And the really smart thing here is that they're building off of Figma. And so I think one of the really smart startup moves is to kind of draft off someone else, right? And to pick a very specific version of the problem. So they were really smart to pick Figma, knowing that this is a dominant tool that most designers use, knowing that most designers have to communicate with software developers, knowing that Figma is growing like crazy. They're just really able to get their foot in the door with Figma. And so that's one of the things, like the takeaways here is that startups that pick that allow themselves to piggyback off of other companies that are really hot, I think are really smart. Now, as I talked about with Lex earlier, it's difficult. You have to be careful with doing that. Like Lex is using Google Docs and ChatGPT, and Google's probably going to kill that product. Now, the chances are here that Figma will probably try to do something like this, but to be honest, Figma's a lot smaller than Google. And I think the chances are that Figma partners or acquires this company are a lot higher than them crushing them, right? Whereas Google is probably just going to crush Lex, because they can. Uh, yeah, so I'm gonna show you one of the next fun things about Arc, and I'm gonna ask like, um, I'm gonna ask ChatGPT, can you generate CSS from an image now? And I just forgot actually that Kombai is probably dead. Um, because I think ChatGPT version 4 now actually lets you take in images and generate CSS. So actually, I take that back. I mean, what Kumbai is doing is really smart, doing this with Figma, but I think ChatGPT probably just ate their lunch. So that's a bummer, but cool product. You can kind of click and it can show you, it can generate code. So they probably worked very hard to do this, and then ChatGPT just jumped in and said, we're going to take it. So bummer, but still kind of cool. All right, last up, Rainbow AI. I have kind of been obsessed with weather apps since I was a kid. My dad's really into them. And so This is one of those cases though where I think the founders have made a really smart move. And at first I was like, screw them. They don't know what they're talking about. Like, there's no way they can build a better weather app. And then I was thinking about it and I was like, who are they competing with? I mean, Apple has a weather app. I mean, they acquired Dark Sky. And then the National Weather Service has like weather forecasts, and then you have all these random kind of local weather stations. And the more I started to think about it, I was like, oh yeah, like there's been a real shift in the availability of data and the tools you can use to analyze it. And I don't think any of the incumbents are going to take advantage of that. And so I don't know. I actually am kind of rooting for these guys. Like I'm not paying for it right now. And the one thing I don't like is it requires you to have location services on, which makes sense because it wants you to know when things are happening around you. But I find that just sucks my battery. But I mean, I think if I'm out and about in a different country, I might be using this because it's actually worldwide. I think this is a great example of a lever change where you suddenly have really great general use AI and you have a lot of weather data and you can hit the ground running. And this is the last ARC tool I'm showing is if you hold shift and you hover, it shows you a little sneak preview and a summary of the website. This is crazy. I mean, mostly I think this week's episode is just about ARC, what you can do with it. So just to touch on ARC, what you can do with it is they launched this max mode. And so you can ask on a page and it'll intelligently give you answers. You can do 5-second previews, just holding down shift, which you just saw. It'll update your tab titles, which is pretty dope. It'll update your downloads. And then finally you get ChatGPT in the command bar, which I think is a killer use case. Like removing one click and making that even smoother is crazy. Okay, so just to recap, we have ArcMax, which I kind of showed in the background. We have Resend, email for developers. I think a lot of people say something for developers. I think email for developers is actually useful. And I might be trying that one out. So you might be seeing my emails come through there. Kombai, I think, is going to get their lunch eaten by ChatGPT 4, but cool idea, folks. And finally, Rainbow AI surprised me. I think they might actually be onto something. I think the incumbents drag their feet here, and this is a product worth paying for, knowing the weather at your exact location. So let me know what you all think and enjoy. Thank you.